compared to other years, it's kind of a weird crop of defensemen in the sense that there's only 4 or 5 that we expect to be going in the first round. I don't know, maybe Z's opinion has changed on that a little bit, but I'm sure there's a lot of caveat here. Hey, which team, when are they picking them? We're throwing that all out the window in a vacuum. I want to know how you rank the top 5, or even feel free to go beyond that, Z. Like, what are we looking at for your personal opinion on those defensemen?
Yeah, I mean, it is a weird kind of like, so this draft, it's been kind of well documented. It's out there. Like, in terms of the defensemen, this is probably one of the weaker drafts. There are a couple of dudes who, like, they're gonna be legit. So there's like probably 4 guys with a legit high ceiling, or at least the potential to have a high ceiling. But they're all very different. I mean, I think probably, I think it's pretty much well established that the guy that's going to go first of anyone here is the David Reinbacher kid out of the Swiss league over there. Right shot D, you'll see comps, which is probably a little bit aggressive because everyone just like needs to use this comp. But I know a lot of people use like a mold of Moritz Seider kind of in that realm. Really just a solid all-around defenseman. There's a legit offensive ceiling. He moves the puck well. He defends at a high level. He's played really well in a pro league that's up and coming too. So he's kind of just like cemented himself as the guy that's going to go first for a defenseman here. And he, again, it's more just that the well-rounded game. I think he's a pretty smart kid too. So that's probably the guy that I would probably take first, I guess. But like, I'm having a hard time. And the second guy for me probably would be Dmitri Simashev, the Russian.
Yeah, so talk about that real quick, though, because I know, and this was totally off the cuff as we were going through this during the draft lottery, but you actually had Simashev first off the board when we went through that exercise. Has anything changed, or have you just put a little bit more thought into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Simashev is like, I'm trying to figure out why the offense wasn't there all year long. Like, he was doing all the right things. I don't know if it was just a case where he just wasn't getting like the bounces there, but he's got the profile. Like, I mean, you're talking about a kid who's 6'4". He's big. He's strong, but like his skating is legitimately unbelievable. He might be top 5 skater in this draft as a 6'4" defenseman. He moves up the ice incredibly well, whether it's him skating the puck out, the first pass, it doesn't matter. In transition, he's great. And just when he's like these turns that he makes from a stop, like it's incredible. Like, he is an ankle breaker. So I have no idea why it just like wasn't translating into actual points, because again, like every element that you're looking for in a guy with like legit offensive upside, it's right there. So I do think he still has the upside. I'm just trying to figure out why he didn't necessarily pop offensively. But I do think, like, even if the offense doesn't come, he's still even going to obviously get better defensively too. So you're looking at a guy that is either going to be a no shit shutdown, incredible skater, second pair guy maybe. But I think for me, like, I know that there is potential to just pop and be that incredible two-way defenseman. So I think and again, they're probably neck and neck. And to be honest, the only reason I would probably lean Reinbacher is the fact that he is also, again, he's played in that Swiss league. He's a right shot D, and like, you've kind of seen him prove a concept where he's putting up, I think he put up 20, 25 points this year in pro league. So, but I do really have a hard time like picking him over Simashev, but I think I just would, just because you've seen, again, proof of concept there with the well-rounded game, the two-way ability. He's already doing it in a pro league, and he's pretty close to being pro ready as is, where Simashev probably needs another year or two before, or maybe even 3, who knows with how it's going to go in Russia. But I just think with Reinbacher being a right shot, being a little bit closer, and again, the proof of concept and seeing the actual offense kind of pop there, like, maybe that's probably where I'd lean, but it's neck and neck for me still.
Sure. And
I think you're happy if you get one of those two dudes, you're very happy.
What about the Swedes then? Is there a little bit more separation between them? Are they pretty neck and neck as well? Because like they're the next two to probably go, you think?
Yeah, I'd probably the next 2, so 3 and 4, probably Sandin, Pellikka. Again, we'll just see what happens. We've seen that profile of player with the smaller D, but again, another guy that's easily a top 10 skater in this draft. He moved the puck incredibly well in transition. He's got potential to be like a real good power play quarterback, playmaker in the offensive zone. The decision making just hit or miss sometimes. But he's got a super high ceiling. And I know he was our smart scouting. He was our first defenseman off the board. I think we had him like, I want to say we put him at 8th overall, but crazy potential there. But we've just seen like that type of player not translate as well in the NHL. But I do think, even though he's quote undersized because he's not 6 feet tall, he also, with him, like it's not like he's just all offense. He's already got like defensive kind of like NHL defensive tendencies already, where he's scanning the play in advance. He kills plays off the rush. So and he's quick on pucks, and so he's able to kill plays. He's still gonna have to get stronger, obviously, be a bit undersized. And his in zone defense is come and go sometimes, but I think it's not gonna be a case where like, well, if the offense doesn't pop, there's no like B game. Like I think he's able to still defend well enough.
So what you're saying?
Yeah, no, he probably is behind them though. He's a notch below them for me.
Dino wouldn't take him out back and give him the old yeller because he's got a little bit of defense.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Not a waste of space like Kalen Addison. Perfect.
Yeah, apparently. You texted me earlier today. We'll, I'm sure, talk about that briefly, but I think they're gonna keep him.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, any updates on that? Like I've heard nothing on like trade front or
more people have heard that they're not really looking to move him anyways. Like they're listening, but I know that people have like put it out there that like it's not like they're actively like, yeah, no, we would like to trade him. I think they would.
What a weird situation then with how the end of the year played out.
You can't torment him if he's somewhere else. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's so interesting how that all played out, and the fact that he's still going to be here. But I guess a second chance. I mean, we're happy, obviously, but
it's just the fact
I want him to be happy.
It's the fact that they would even like be like, yeah, this is something we'd be interested in doing. He's the one fucking defenseman you have that like does the thing that no one else can do on your back end, including guys that have been around for 11 years. Like he does the power play thing better than all of them.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Spurgeon looks pretty dang good on the power play, and everyone tells me that Lambos is just going to play next year, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
All right.
No, they're bringing in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. What are you talking about? He's going to run the power play.
We're not going down that rabbit hole. Where are we at for the number 4 guy then? I assume we know who it is, but I want to hear you say it.
I mean, well, you say it then, because I think we might not be on the same page then.
Oh, no Tom Willander?
I probably would put Gulyayev before Willander, the Russian kid.
Ooh, there's a lot of people that think he's going to fall out of the first. Talk me through it.
That's his ceiling. As a defenseman, he's one of the best playmakers in this fucking draft, like including forwards. Like he is like the skating is incredible. When he dances on the blue line, he just makes everyone look stupid. And again, he's got a good shot. And the defending, yes, he's going to have to rely on what I was talking about with Pellikka. Like he's going to have to first of all just vastly improve defensively, but because he is such a good skater, I think he will have to rely on, his defense is going to be more so like killing plays in transition before they develop, which he can do. It's just the fact that, he does have that label as like, if he's not producing points and he's not like basically doing like Erik Karlsson things offensively, then you're looking at like a black hole. But and that's probably a little bit aggressive. And even I've said that in the past, like, man, he has no interest in D, because there are games where he's just clearly not interested in playing defense, but as a defenseman, which is always very funny to me. But his ceiling, like he might have a higher ceiling than any defenseman in this draft. It's just the fact that like, if he doesn't hit that ceiling, I'm still trying to figure out what that B game is, like just how low the floor could possibly be. But in terms of just pure potential, he's probably, of all the defensemen, pure ceiling, he's probably got the highest.
Okay. And looking at guys like him and Simashev, like entirely different scenario altogether than Matvei Michkov, but do you see either or both of them falling purely because the Russia factor?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe Simashev, maybe, and that's only because, well, if I'm taking a defenseman with a top, 12 pick,
You want to guarantee.
you don't want to have that risk. But at the same time, like, there's, like you said, we've said this every time we talk about Michkov versus the other Russians, like, that's a whole other set of risks, like, not just with the Russian factor, but the fact that Michkov is locked up over there. Like, you can't get him out. Like, he's not coming here before that contract ends. It's not a Marashenko just did it, but usually that's a whole other set of circumstances too. And if you are going to try to break a guy out of that contract, like, it's fucking almost impossible. But if you do manage to do it, it's very, very, very expensive, like very, very expensive. And I don't see Ska looking to even entertain the thought of not having Michkov there, playing in the KHL for a couple of years and just like showcasing that league and who they're the kinds of players they're producing. But I just don't see the same level of risk and like with the pure Russian factor being there with like Gulyayev or Simashev or really any of the other Russians.
Well, you guys have Gulyayev at Smart Hockey. You guys have him rated the highest out of everybody too. I think you guys had him at 16. Bob McKenzie had him at like 23, and then McKean's have him at 19. Everyone else has him like Toppy said, potentially out of even the first round.
Yeah, again, it's just that profile of player. Like, I mean, and we talked about it with Pellikka, like we've seen players who have all of the potential in the world, but that profile of undersized guys who, the best part of his game is that offense. We've seen it like not translate, but again, like he just has a whole other fucking like ceiling that a lot of other guys, or if any defensemen really, just don't have.
So I got to ask just a hypothetical, and this one will make Isha smile, but I know it's tough to break those contracts. I know that Ska has zero interest in letting a guy like Matvei Michkov go. In the scenario that a lot of people seem to think is the most likely, where he does land with the Washington Capitals, outside chance that Alex Ovechkin has a word with them, coerces them into letting him leave early, and also tying into that Ovi will go back and play there as soon as he beats Gretzky's record. Like, is that something that you can even see being entertained?
I have no idea. That's way more of a rabbit hole that I could even begin to try to like formulate any like prediction on. I mean, I know I bet Michkov, I bet he would love to end up there and play with Ovechkin. Or Ovechkin just going over there before Michkov. If it gets fucking drafted or sent over here to play the NHL, Ovi just beats Gretzky's records. Like, see ya. But yeah, no, I think that's like the people are always asking like how low could he possibly go. I feel like that's the fucking lowest, which isn't completely out of the realm of possibility too.
Do they take him no question, or is there anyone that entices Washington?
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of guys. They need prospects in just about every position anyways. So there's going to be plenty of guys available there that they will be thrilled to take. But I mean, if you're letting Matvei Michkov fall past you at 8, I think you're fucking crazy, even if you do have to wait a couple of years. Okay. But I mean, they do want to win now, and they don't want to like, I mean, even whoever that you take at 8, they're not going to probably be playing next year anyways. But you can't let that kid go like to 9 to 10. Like, that's nuts.
Dude, Craig Button's convinced the Sharks are going to take him.
Yeah, and that's where I've had him going before too. Just like they're not in a hurry to get good again, and like they've got a couple Russian kids in their pipeline already too.
Yeah. Well, they're going to get worse next year because they're going to dish out Carlson too, right? So they're just going to go full on rebuild. So they might.
So he fits their timeline, honestly. Yeah, he fits their timeline too. Where like by the time he comes over, like, and I believe just like off top, they may have like a couple of those like Couture deal, Vlasic deal, like those big bad contracts. Off the top of my head, I know that right around when Michkov would be coming over here and that contract in Russia ends, most of, if not all of those like crazy bad contracts should be off their books, I think. But that's just off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong.
Well, again, it's around that time, and they're not winning anytime soon. So yeah, I feel like that's a layup for them. unless they want to sell tickets, but they don't really have an issue with that because their fan base is pretty diehard regardless as of late anyways. And I feel like Sharks fans are getting smarter and smarter too, where like they want to embrace the rebuild. They're just like, stop. Like, I feel like they'd get more annoyed if, they just were plugging holes with a prospect who can play now and showcase them just to sell tickets. I feel like they want to get back into that like dominant run that they went on, and they shit the Sharks that like we knew growing up that just like made the playoffs year after year after year.
Stroking it. All right. And you don't have to go like way in depth here, Z, because at the end of this video on YouTube, we'll be linking over to your more in-depth walkthrough with clips for Tom Willander. But talk to me about it. A lot of the different rankings out there have him as probably the second or third defenseman coming off the board. And I know you're super high on this kid's talent because originally when we talked about him, like he was being looked at, in the second or third round. Has the hype gotten too high? Like, why do you have him falling behind these four for your personal rankings?
Yeah. So, and like you said, like coming into this year, he was one of the guys that not necessarily like a relative unknown prospect because like he just people knew who he was. Like he's legit. He's a big kid. He skates unbelievably well. Defends hard, defends super well, but like I'm still, while I have been very high on him all year, I've consistently either had him like either one of the first picks in the second round early on, but as he continued to develop this season and just had such a good year, specifically like the second half of his season, I've probably got him firmly like myself probably anywhere from 22 on to the first round, but I don't think you could let him slip out of the first round, honestly. But he's just got all the tools in the world. And like we saw this year, especially like towards the tail end of the J20 season, the Swedish juniors, where again, he's their number one used defenseman. Rogula won that league, the league championship. And then at the U18s, like he started showcasing some, offensive upside there too, where before it was pretty much just like almost like a right shot Brodeen kind of, you know what I mean? It's like not huge, but he's not undersized, but he's like big enough. But the skating is unbelievable. Defending is incredible. And kind of just like what was holding him back was just the fact that he had all the tools in the world, but he was just never experimenting with them. And then he started doing that more often towards the end of the year, where he wasn't just getting the puck at the blue line and like sending a hopeful shot on net, or just like making a simple pass, but he was actually hanging on to it. Showed some deception at the blue line, some playmaking ability. So I think there is a little bit more of a higher offensive upside, more potential than we thought initially. And I know that a lot of people have seen that too, but I'm not going to be a guy like Craig Button, who I think has him at like 8th overall. And I know he's going to go. I think he will go in the teens at this point because I think teams really have fallen in love again. He's a right shot D, skates incredibly well, defends hard and defends very well. And kind of just like checks every box. I still just have questions about just how much offensive upside there truly is. But I think there was more than we initially thought. So it'll be interesting to see him at BU next season with Lane Hudson too, which could be a very fun pair. Two of like the best that might, if they are on a pair together, I will lose it. Like that might be the most entertaining D pair to watch in college hockey.
Ooh, BU or BC? Who's better?
I think BC's got the. I don't know. I guess those two are just like those two defensemen make that team very fun to watch. But I think BC's probably just got more. BC has more of the forwards. Like BC's getting the whole fucking USN TDP line, who will probably be a line again. Plus Cutter Gauthier. They still got Yelvik and Gasso, the two Bruins prospects who are still there. They got a couple other guys that are coming back too. So I think forward-wise, BC's going to be very fun to watch. And then on the back end, though, like that's where a lot of that offense is going to come from for BU. So it's going to be interesting. And they'll have what's his name? Macklin Celebrini, who's probably going to go first overall in 2024. He's going to be there in a year too, not this upcoming year, obviously, but the year after. So he'll make that team fun too, if those other guys are there still. But they're both loading up the next couple of years with these recruiting classes. Like it's nuts.
So what you just mentioned though, with there being a couple of Bruins prospects there, can you imagine if like NHL teams started drafting kids that are college eligible and saying like, no, come play here. Like if the Wild drafted a kid that's playing college hockey and they're like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to go to Notre Dame. And they're like, no, you're going to the Gophers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, this is where you're going to go, actually. Thank you.
Oh man. All right. Before we get Isha's input on the defenseman, Z, anyone else that you see having like a dark horse possibility of sneaking into the first round, or is that really it for the defense?
Yeah, I mean the first guy that comes to mind there is a real fun player to watch. Might have another kid with like super high offensive upside, questionable defense, but Tanner Molendyk, Saskatoon Blades. His highlight reel is a whole lot of fun. And I mean, he's got, again, the foundation where I do think he's going to end up becoming a very good defenseman in the NHL. I think a lot of people right now will have him like right outside the first. But again, all the tools in the world, skating, unbelievable, really fun offense, like dynamic playmaker. It's just defensively is a big time work in progress. But he's got like, again, when you're looking at defense, he's got those kind of tools, and he is a smart fucking player too. You're banking on, the improvement over the next few years here. So he's got the potential. I know this, what's his name? Mitch Brown over at Elite Prospects has an article about why this kid could end up becoming the best defenseman in this class, years down the road. But again, you're looking at he's up the size. He's got all the tools in the world. He can skate and he's smart and he's got offensive upside. So he could develop into one hell of a fucking defenseman.
Fair. That the end of who you think is first round capable?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like a kid like Beau Akey in the OHL for Barrie. Luca Cagnoni, another kid.
What about Tristan Bertucci out of Flint? He had like a monster jump in production this season. I think he had like 15 or some points last year. Then this year, 50 something.
Yeah, so that's like, and those are the players that I get very interested in like tracking after the draft, because just watching some of that, because there's certain guys who they're just like you were saying, the points are steady low, and then out of nowhere they just like take off. Bertucci's probably still a second round guy. I can't see a world where he ends up in the first round just because of how many players there are available, and especially just given the fact that like the forwards in this draft are fucking unbelievable. But he did have a monster year, especially again the second half of the season. He just took off. So
and it wasn't like he was just getting secondary assists off. Like he was, because that's the thing. I was like doing some research, and then I was like, holy shit, this guy had a crazy jump. And then I like went and like just read up on him a little bit in the team, and it's not like they were world beaters that season.
Yeah, Flint was an interesting team. I think he had like 50 points. But again, big second half of the year, and then. But there's actually, and I should have mentioned, there's another guy that actually does have a decent chance of going in the first round. Well, two, I guess. One, Etienne Morin. I know a lot of people really love him out of the queue. He had like 70 points this year. And he scored a ton of goals. And then Lucas Dragasevich, the WHL, also had like, I think 75 points. He's real fun to watch. He just became a defenseman like 2 years ago. So, yeah, the defense, again, work in progress, but that makes sense considering he was a forward up until a couple of years ago. But those are two other guys with chances to go in the first round, probably Morin more so than Dragasevich.